guys. Welcome again to Two Generations,
One conversation
where perspectives may differ, but the goal is always connection. So, we are back with our third installation. Again, we want to thank everyone that have watched, liked, subscribed, or share. We hope that you're enjoying the conversation and that you're learning from us. Um, Keep giving us comments because we want to know what we can do better, what topics you want to see. But this week we're putting a little spin onto from last week's topic. And so this week's topic is what my mom won't tell me. Again, this one might be um, very, very interesting. I think from a parent's perspective, always we want to shield our kids from a lot of things. We want to shield them from our experience. We don't want them to go through the things that we go through. Um, if we had a very humble upbringing, we want to create a better life for them. If we didn't have what I should say, not education, but like if we didn't have collegiate education, we always wish for that. So, we I don't want to say force them, but we encourage them to do things, and sometimes we just don't say certain things as we're moving along in life, right? We just don't want them to know some of the things that are happening in the background that we do on an everyday basis as parents. So we're gonna jump right in, and I'm gonna begin. We'll probably this week. I think we'll do me some topics. What I think I don't say, and then Delia has some things that she wants to ask. um, so I'll go ahead. So I think I want to start off first with like what I thought being a mom would be versus the reality. Um, for one, I knew once I decided that I wanted to have kids, I wanted a little girl for sure. That was the first thing because I felt, all right, I have a little girl. I can dress her up and
Ooh.
I can, just do that girly stuff, buy her Barbies, those types of things. Me being an only child, I had Barbies. You know, played with my dolls and things of that nature. So in I guess being a parent, I felt like, okay, I have a little girl, I can do all of that things, buy her a kitchen set, things like that. And I think I did that when Delia was small.
You did, yeah.
I gave her a lot, maybe too much.
Everything.
But yeah, but as time goes on and you realize that I think the first reality check is for me was I'm responsible for this human's life. So then you start thinking about their health. You start thinking about long-term goals and what school you want them to go, what values you want to instill. And I think um, sometimes you don't think of that ahead of time, but as it goes on and you have that child, reality sits in that this is another human being that and I think when you hold your baby, the love that you have for your baby when you first hold them and you see them is like overwhelming, and something in your brain shifts because prior to that, like, the vision was different, but once I held Delia, like, it just was different. Like, my mindset was different. I started to do everything, I would say, with her in mind. How is it going to affect her? um, so I think it can be a reality check for some people. Obviously, you're not a mom, so you may not have much on this, but it can be a reality check. There's just so much from what type of pediatrician you're going to have for them, right? What schools they're going to go, what curriculum activities you want them to be in. Um, just all of those things you just don't think about prior. One of the biggest things for me, like I said, I wanted to give her everything, right? I came from humble backgrounds. I wouldn't say I didn't have a lot, but I didn't always have everything that everybody else had. Let me say that. Um, so in my mind was like I wanted to give her everything. So she got a lot of toys for Christmas. You know, and looking back on that, sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have got all of that. But it was just how I felt I needed to show love at the time. But then soon, quick enough, as they get older, you get a reality check. Like, can't give them everything because then they don't appreciate it. So I think that's that's also a reality check. Like you you want them to be thankful for what they have and what they get, and by you just giving them everything, you spoil by spoiling them, I should say, can be detrimental in the long run. So I think I learned that really early.
Mhm.
um I would say education was a big thing. I wanted Delia to excel more than me. I wanted to make sure that she um loved to read. So we started reading early. I wanted to make sure that she excelled in school at all times. So I will say, I think I push hard with educations, and I have very strict requirements.
Mhm.
But I don't think there are requirements that any other parent here that wants the best for their kids won't have. I don't know what's your thoughts on that.
I would
Uh,
say it's there. It's not above average. You're very simple when it comes to rules and regulations, and I don't see anything wrong with anything, unless, of course, there is something wrong on my behalf. But other than that,
what's wrong on your behalf,
just like
Delia?
little simple things when we talked about in the first episode, me not being able to do things and rebelling and stuff, that keyword rebelling. But other than that, education wise, what's the word? Just regulation wise, everything is fine. You
Hmm.
don't overdo it, you don't underdo it. You're right there in the middle. So you're doing good, mom. You're doing good.
That what you just said there. Thank you for telling me that. But what you just said there segues into another topic on this, right? Like being a mom too, you have a lot of guilt in motherhood, right?
Mm.
And because I think, again, going back to what you taught before you had kids to reality, right? Right now, the economy is so hard and it's so expensive, right? I think parents sometimes may feel, oh, well, if your kid asks for something and you just can't afford it, you feel guilty, like you're not giving your kid what they need, right? Because you have that love for them and you want to make sure that they're happy. Um, when I talk about guilt in motherhood, I think for me personally, some of my guilt come from I wouldn't say not spending time, but quick story. When I had Delia, I was active duty military. So I had her, and I was also pursuing school, and I wanted to get my degree. So I was pursuing that, and having her made my drive to get my degree um, even more. So I went back to school 9 weeks after Delia was born. And so thinking about you have a 9 week daughter breastfeeding and stuff, I worked, as I said, I was active duty, so I worked Monday to Friday, and I went to school on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, all day. I think it was like 9 to 4, something like that. And so I was pumping, leaving bottles home with her dad, pumping while I'm in class for those 2 days, making sure I have enough milk and going to school. I look back on that and sometimes I feel guilty. And I was like, at 9 weeks, should I have been that mother that was there and not trying to pursue a degree and be there and nurture? They say those early weeks, the baby is bonding and stuff like that. Sometimes that guilt appears when I see her relationship with her dad because she's very close in with her dad in certain aspects, and sometimes I feel guilty, and I was like, is it that she didn't bond with me, right, at that time because I went back to school for my first degree. Um, then I got out of the military and in pursuit of my second degree. And so she was two. Um, Took her out, she was on base, and then go into a new daycare because now I'm no longer in active duty. And here I am, she's two, and I am back in school again, pursuing my bachelor's for nursing. And so, um, so what is that? Probably 2 to 5. I did nursing school from age 2 to 5. I think I did nursing school. Um, so that's another 3 years. And don't get me wrong, I'm still there doing what I'm supposed to do, you know, but a lot of times it was me and a computer and Delia next to me with her toy computer or her toys. And I'm like navigating that parenthood with her while I'm writing a paper, while I'm studying, things like that. And so again, guilt is there when I think about that. Um, and then,
Can I be honest? That what you said almost made me cry. Like, oh my gosh, like, cause
I
this is the
didn't mean to
first
make
time.
you
This
cry.
is the first time I'm hearing any of this. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Oh no, you're good.
just
This is what it is about. Like I am, I'm expressing how I feel, but again, what
like
my mom won't tell me,
right, like
right?
wow, I did not know you were
So,
feeling guilty, and now that I know that, I can see how you feel sometimes because when I look at you and dad, I'm like, they're adults. They don't have feelings like that,
oh,
Like
really?
y'all are big and strong. But you saying that you have a soft spot or you kind of just, go back and think about that. Honestly, on my behalf, I think that you doing pursuing school and stuff was a very good choice because without that, where would we be now? You have to
True,
think about that. I feel
true.
like the sacrifice was there. And just to clear things up, I'm close with both of them. It's just I just was with my dad more. But as I
Yeah,
get older now, I'm bonding with her. I'm bonding with her right now. So I just wanted
yeah.
to clear that up. I
Yeah.
don't I love you
And
guys the
and I
same.
know I'm glad that you cleared that up because when I say close with your dad doesn't mean that we're not close. I mean, we have our moments and situation as we mentioned in the I think
Second
the second
episode? Yeah.
episode. Yeah. Look at us saying second episode. We mentioned that and there's times when we have our moments, but I do acknowledge and I'm privy to see you and your dad have this special relationship at times, which I love because I am a daddy's girl as well. So I appreciate that. But sometimes, like I say, and this is probably the first time, as you say, I'm telling you, like sometimes I do feel guilty. Is it during those instances? Those were like to me, your formative, your really learning ages,
Like golden years.
baby, two to
Mhm.
2 to 5. And then I also remember too that so I got my first nursing job when you was I think 5, yeah, 2015, and I worked on in the hospital and I worked night shift.
Oh yeah, I remember
So
that.
then there were nights when I was not at home to tuck you in. And so again, I'm gonna mention my cousin who has 4 kids. Hey Kay. Um and I admire her because she decided to be a stay-at-home mom. She was afforded that opportunity, and sometimes I think about that. She gets to tuck in her kids every night and things of that nature. Um, Obviously, now we're at a better stage. I moved within years to different positions, and I was able to be home and present and work like a Monday to Friday job, which I do now. But again, some of the guilt that parents, when we sacrifice, when we are doing things to better our lives so that we could give our kids a better life. I think sometimes we do look back and we do have some guilt in motherhood, because of some of the what is that, the things that we do.
But
You know,
why? But why feel guilty for sacrificing for a better outcome? Why is that?
I honestly don't have an answer. Why? Why? I think for me, as I mentioned, when I look at certain situations, I just wonder, and I'm like, wow, should I have waited until she was 8 or 9 to then um, pursue my dreams and careers and things like that? But then I look back and then I'm like, well, then I would have been way older,
Mm-hmm.
and to now start school, and then what I was doing was so that I can have a better job, and that I can provide a better life with your dad. So I understand it, but I think as a parent, you can't really explain how that feels, and I would say put that in the comment because I really don't have a true answer for that. So, if you listen to this episode, definitely drop some comments, and let us know, should I really feel guilty for trying to pursue my dreams, um, and and because of that, feel guilty.
Okay.
Um, which brings us now to probably like balancing work life and being present, right?
Okay.
So as I talked about, you know, you as a baby, I going to school, doing that. Then you was two, I was balancing going to school and having you home and things of that nature. And then I started to work. I was working night shifts to balance in. So I knew that some of the balance with that, I must say I was very happy that I had a supportive husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I was working at night, and so he did the night shift, but before I went to work, I made sure, things were in place to help with that. Um, of course, I didn't always see you every day in the morning when you wake up because
Mm-hmm.
I was now coming from work. But it had some flexibility because me working 12 hours at night, I work 3 days a week, I got to choose that. So there were some mornings when I was off, when I had my 2 day off, I was here both morning and night. So there was a trade off there.
Okay.
Um, but one of I think me trying to balance life and trying to balance kids and things like that. I don't know. I think I did a pretty good job with that once we figured it out. I made sure in my days off I spent time, right? I would make sure that I fed you that day. I gave you a bath. I put you to bed. I read a story to you if we did that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I balanced that off. And then also on those days, I made sure, especially if it was a weekend, that we did do things together. Sometimes it was a little bit overkill because at that time we was going to Disney a lot.
Oh yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm. I
do you
remember
remember
that.
that?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
That 3 day weekend I would have and Disney passes. We were in Disney a lot. So, but I think that's how I balance sometimes. Um,
Is this what you expected it to be before coming into motherhood? Kind of just backtracking. Is this now like compared to then and now? Is this did you expect this to happen? Were you expecting these outcomes?
Um, I think now I can look back and mm, did I expect it? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I expected. Like I said earlier on, I just know I wanted a girl, right? And I, and it was just to do girly things. Um, so I didn't
Because
have true expectations. But what
right.
I would say now that you're 15, um, I there's some things that I expected that I'm happy about. One, your love for reading, because that was one of the biggest thing I wanted. And you are a avid reader, although not so much now, but for the most
Just,
part. Um, I think your I love that you do speak out sometimes, and I think I gave you space to do that too.
hmm
In the sense of like you never saw me shun
never.
from
You're the type of
from
person to speak your mind, definitely.
exactly, and in a respectful way. And I think there are times when I see you do certain things, and I don't say it.
Ooh.
I'm like, ooh, I'm proud of her. Look at her. She's
No, you
standing
need
for
to tell me when
herself.
you're
Yeah.
proud.
I mean, I tell you I'm proud about things, but
Right.
I'm just saying like certain things I'll see, and again the topic, but my mom won't tell me, right?
Right. Yep. There we go.
So um I at times I'm like, oh wow, that was awesome. Like again, I'm gonna go back to the business pitch when
Mm.
you did the video on your own, and some of the things you said in that, I was like, is this my child? Like, because I can't remember example now, but it was things the the what you said in there were things that I knew I taught you, that I knew that you we had conversations, like when we have those real debate conversations, right?
Yep.
Like why you shouldn't do this, or why you should be kind to people, why you should give, and those type of things. Just that video had so much of things that I knew I embedded in you, that I was so proud. And I know I told you the video was great,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I was proud because I was like, "Ooh, I see myself there." So yeah,
That was a good example. That was very good. Yeah.
yeah. But I guess balancing, yeah, back to balancing life, work, and being present. I think I have grown as a parent to balance my life and my work and being present, because especially during school time, it that was a struggle, right? And
hmm
we won't even talk what happened with the third degree. That's when I had the boy.
Oh.
Right?
hmm
So I decided to go back for my master's and found that I was pregnant with a boy. So it was almost the same cycle. Like I was going through pregnancy again, and now I'm in school again. I actually had him while I was in school, so I
Yeah.
had to switch one of my classes to online. But that's another story. But again, it was almost that same cycle of school, and now I have a baby. But I learned from you, right? I learned from you
Oh, you learned from
how,
me?
yeah, well,
Oh.
in the sense I learned from having you and going to school. Once I had him, how to create that balance. So I was
Mm.
present, or I felt like I was present as a mom with him being so young. So I would say thank you, Delia, because then I learned once I have him in school. So yeah, that sometimes is always a struggle, and I think as parents, we really have to sit with ourselves and think about what's priority? And I do want to say your family is always priority. Yes, your job is important. Yes, you need that to put food on the table, but we really need to figure out ways to not let our jobs, our careers, and things of that um, disrupt being present for our kids. So, um, enough about that. We don't want to be crying here.
Almost in the first part, you almost had me crying. Yeah, just a little bit.
I I think the last thing I want to talk about with what your mom won't tell you is the silent sacrifices. Um, I know for sure I don't tell y'all the sacrifices myself, and your dad make. Um, I think culturally, I come from a family where, you know, as a child, it's like stay in a child's place, right?
Mm.
It's never like your mom will sit there and tell you all the bills and things of that nature. And again, you learn from how you was raised and you take pattern from your parents. So I guess I'm the same way. There's things that I feel like I don't need to tell the kids, right? So if we can't do something because it's finance, like I don't say, well, we don't have money for that. I'll just say, well, we can't do that right now. I think that's fair enough for the most part. And I'm not telling anyone that they need to tell their kids everything. But I do think this generation, as I call them, the Y
I knew it.
generation,
I just sensed it. I
as I call them, the Y generation, they like to be informed. And I think we have to adapt to that, and we have to find ways. I'm not saying you have to tell them every single details, but a little bit of information really helps. You know, I think I learned that with like, I never told Delia how much we pay for mortgage, how much we pay for electric, how much we pay for whatever, right? And she was working on a project for school where they were, I think it was like doing, I don't know if it was the
I'm trying to
budget or
remember.
something like that.
Yes, it was that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she was like, well, mom, I don't know, she needed information. She's like, what do I put here? How much do you pay for that? And I started talking, and it was eye opening to her. She's like, oh my God, that's how much you pay for mortgage? From a perspective of when she goes on her own, like, this is how much bills are, this is how much money you spend in various bills.
Hmm.
That was shocking to her. So I think we have to understand the perspective. Like, we don't have to tell them every detail, but I think for them to be informed at a certain age too, at a certain age, to be informed of what the real world looks like, so that they can be better prepared. That's how I look at it now. I think before, I would have been like, no, you don't need to know that. That's none of your business. But for I think for her to be informed of what the world looks like, how expensive it is to live in this economy right now. What is the prices of things that you may want? Because as kids, right? I remember growing up young and I was like, okay, I'm gonna live in a 3-bedroom house with
Mm.
a pool
Mm.
and this and that, and I'm a driver. I'm still gonna try to get it.
Mercedes.
Yes, I'm gonna drive a Mercedes Benz, and I'm gonna do this. But when you get out in reality, it was like, no, 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 homegirl, you're not gonna get all of that if you don't have a job, education job, and money to get that, because it costs a lot, right? Because we play Monopoly and we think we can afford everything.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, so I think sometimes it's good to expose your kids to some of the sacrifices you make so that they understand. And I think also it helps them to appreciate some of the things that they have. right? It helps them to build that form of
It
appreciation.
surely did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to understand, wow, I am fortunate because this is how much this costs, right? Um,
Just I don't want to use any examples to like put business out there, but just a couple of even when we go on little trips or anything, and I'm like, okay, well, a good example I could use is SeaWorld. And I'm pretty sure everyone, hopefully everyone that views has been to SeaWorld. If you go there, when was it the food package, right?
yeah, we get
Yeah,
the all day
all day
dining.
food package. It's like is it 4 3 meals a day for the park? I don't. It's
You
a
get it's all days, but it's like every two
2 hours.
hours or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
and they didn't even have to tell me because the last time we went, oh, actually we went to Busch Gardens. It's kind of the same thing. And when I looked at the prices for all day, I was like, we have that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. And then when you sit there and think about it while I'm eating my mac and cheese and ribs, because I remember I remember eating that, I'm like, so they had to pay for the tickets for all of us because we're a big family. So was it five of us or was it four of us at that
No,
time?
it's five of us. Yeah.
Yeah, it was five of us going. And no, it was four because Granny had stayed she had stayed,
No,
right?
she went to
Oh, she
Busch
came?
Gardens. Yeah.
Okay. And it was five of us, and I had to think, oh my gosh, the price for each of these tickets. And then on top of that, we got souvenirs too. And then on top of that, we had the all day package. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And even though sometimes, just in general, and sorry, putting that to the side, going back onto the why thing, I feel like for teens, like as you said, there's a certain age, when we ask why, sometimes we just want to know. Like, why can't I do that? And you saying, I don't know, or that's none of your business, like, okay, cool. But a prime example I could use, right, is you saying no to us doing certain things. Like, Mom, I want to go, we'll use the mall. Mom, I want to go to the mall. No. Why I can't go? Because I said so. But I feel like when given a proper explanation on why we can't do something, it makes us understand why. And I feel like saying no, okay, I'm gonna expose myself. I feel like saying no creates more sneakiness, honest, in my opinion. That just goes for me. I feel like saying no just pushes the
I'm
temptation.
learning that you have a rebel nature in you,
Well, as
apparently.
mentioned in the first episode, I did say that. But I just feel like saying no and just not giving an explanation
Mm-hmm.
just builds not distrust. It kind of just I can't find the word. It
It makes you inquisitive
yeah, it makes
of
me
what's
question
the
it more.
reason, what's the reason
Why I can't
they're
do
telling
this?
me no.
All
And
right,
so here's the truth about that. I get that. I do get
you
that.
do.
Yeah, I do, because I remember when my mom used to tell me no, I couldn't do things, and I used to be like, okay,
Why?
why? Like, everybody's doing it. Why can't I do it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it does pique your curiosity, like, oh, there's something about that, why they don't want me to go there, or
Mm-hmm.
why they don't want me to eat that, or why they don't want me to have this, or what, there's something about it, there's a curiosity that's built.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I want to say, right? And I get it, like I said, I think as parents in this generation right now, we have to find a balance of when we just be like no flat off, and then when we explain, right? I i i have changed my method to some things. There are some things I'd be like, absolutely not, Delia, and that's it. And then there are some things I'd be like, Delia, well, and we'll go back to that mall example. Since you use that example, we'll
Mm-hmm.
use that. So Delia, would be like, Mom, I want to go to the mall with my friends, right? Okay, I'm not saying no, but I'm saying no to, who are these friends? And if you can't give me name and their parents' phone number, then I'm saying no. Because I need to know who you're hanging out with. I also need to know their parents. I need to know what type of parents they have, right? Because me, and don't come for me. If you want to drop your 15-year-old in the mall and walk away, that's fine. I'm saying Giselle will not drop her 15-year-old out in the mall and just walk away. And I don't even know a name of a friend. I haven't seen their face or I haven't seen a parent. I don't, there's too much going on in the world for me to feel comfortable to do that. And that's me. That's
Now,
my parenting.
but right there, would you say that it's a different timing from now and back then?
Absolutely.
Do you think back then I could have just went in the mall with my friends?
Absolutely. Because guess what? Let's 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 talk about my times,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
My mom was the same way. She was like, "Oh, you're not going to the mall by yourself." But I call her a sister friend that I grew up with that was older than me. So she was going,
Mm.
I would go. But my mom also know most of my friends, right? And so that's what I tell Delia. I was like, you call all these names. Oh, I'm talking to Annalise and this one. We're not going to put anybody name. That's fake names. Um, but I don't know them. I've never seen them. So I don't know who their parents are. I don't know where they live. I, I think that's important because I also want to be on the same page with other parents, right? If your kid, if my kid is not allowed to, this is probably way off, my kid is not allowed to vape, then I need to know if your kid vapes. Because I don't want to put her, that does not mean, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that she can't hang with that person and not vape. But I also need to arm her with the information. Like, you don't have to feel pressured, right? So if you allow your kid to vape, that's fine because I'm a parent. I was raised by a village. If I went down the road to hang out and one of my mom's friends saw me doing something that wasn't ethical or not, I shouldn't have been doing, they had the authority to pull me up. They had, and bet your bottom dollar before I reach home, my mom will know.
Has that happened before?
With my mom?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Whew.
Of course. We're not going to go there. But of course, yes. So, so it's the same thing. I am that type of parent. If I drop my kids off with your kids and I see your kids doing something wrong, I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm going to be like, hey, are you supposed to be doing that? Does your mom know you're doing that? Because I'm going to tell her when I call her, the kind of way. And I expect the parents to be the same with my kids to protect my child. But again, going back to the story at hand is that I'm not dropping you off and leaving you there and I don't know who you with. What if something happened? I don't know who to call. Who was she with when you go to the cops? Well, she was with Joe Brown. Who's Joe Brown? Do you know Joe Brown parents? Maybe she went to Joe Brown's house. I don't even know where y'all live, you know? So that's part of the reason why I'm like that. But again, I think in this generation, there are some things that I think we can, as parents, really explain to our kids the reasoning why. One of the things that just popped in my head when I talk about being a mom versus a reality, I'll never forget, and I think I told you this just recently. Um, I'll never forget, obviously, when you want a child, it's a different story. And remember, I said that once you hold that baby, you're like, oh my God, it's so much love and protectiveness. It's just like mammals, bears and how they protect their cubs. Um, you build that protective instinct. And I remember before I had you, when your dad and I lived in an apartment, there was a little girl, 7 year old, that was adopted. Adopt, say the word. Adopted by
Summer?
yeah, Summer.
Okay.
So I did tell her this
Yeah.
story.
This was a very big
And
story. Yeah.
yeah, it was a huge story in Florida. I lived in that neighborhood. Um, and that really resonated with me because it happened so quick. It happened in an area that she didn't go off. She walked that area every single day to school. And that just tells me that You never know who's watching you, right? And so going back to the thing with the mall is that you don't know who's watching you in the mall, right? And anything could happen at any given time. You have to be aware of your surroundings and things. And that's why I go back to like, I want to be able to say, well, okay, she was with Joe, Bob, and here's their parents' number. Let's see if they picked up their kids, whatever as the case may be, you know?
Mhm.
But where I was going with that story is from once I had you, I remember I signed up. I signed up for the
Watch page.
yeah, the
Oh my
sex
gosh.
registry watch where you can sign up and it will notify you if a registered sex offender moves into a certain radius of miles within your house. And because that was important to me, and I wouldn't I would say so with me getting that I would get notification when a sex offender is in my neighborhood or close enough or whatever. And I told her um recently, I told her that, and I was like, when you walking if you're walking out in the neighborhood by yourself or anything like that, I'm worried because these individuals look very normal. So who's having mic issues? So we're back. So yeah, these individuals, they look normal. They're normal guys. They're not gonna have a sign, you know. And I actually showed her
Mhm.
one
I was like, he
and
looks
the
so normal.
and the age because he was a very young guy. And I was like, think about it. You go to the mall, this guy's in the mall, and he starts talking to you, and you think, oh my God, it's the cutest little thing. But here he's a sex offender. So again, those are some of the reasons why, sometimes I think moms we say no, but again, just honing in that maybe we do need to explain to them sometimes so they understand the seriousness of certain situations and why we do that. So I know this topic was a lot of me talking about what I won't tell, but I think Dana had a couple things that she wanted to ask.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask why moms say no sometimes when they want to say yes.
I just explained that.
Okay, well, hold on.
But it's not so much that we want to say yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we just want to say no, that we want to say yes. I think again, sometimes is that we we want to say yes if the situation is aligned with us, which goes back to this what we just said. I want you to go in the mall and be with your friends and things of that nature, but I also want you to be safe,
True. Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I say no, it's because the things aren't aligned for me to say yes. Meaning, you're not telling me who you're going with. I don't know these people, and I'm not going to let you just walk aimlessly in the mall. Given the situation that we're in right now, I mean, how many times right here in the Orange Park Mall they've had to shut it down because there's some shooting or some fight or something
True.
like that.
Yes, definitely.
So I think it's more so when the situation that you're asking about doesn't align is why we say no when we could possibly say yes. I do think as teenagers, what you do need to do is align the situation properly, and then you may get that yes. Because if you came and said to me, Mom, I want you to meet Elisa, again, fake names, um, Mom, can you talk to her mom? Because we want to hang out in the summer together.
Okay.
Then you're aligned in the situation, right? I meet her mom. Maybe we have a meet and greet with all four of us. We talk, and then um, once the once you come back and say, hey, mom, me and Alisa want to go to the mall. Okay, which mom is going with y'all? Because again, I'm not leaving you in the mall. I may drop you in the mall. Y'all could go walk. I may be shopping on my own and tell you meet me at a certain place, but I'm not gonna. Me personally, I probably won't leave you solo until you are a certain age.
Right.
So,
So another question was, and you don't have to tell me like the serious ones. What are some of the mistakes that you made as a teenager that you kind of look back on, maybe reflect, maybe regret, or anything like that that you could compare to me now?
um, I think a big one would be, whew, a big one would be school and school. I think a big one would be school. Like I think at a certain point in time, I did good in school, but I think I could have been a little bit more serious. And so at times I kind of bullshit around. So I think that was one I regret sometimes, right? But I think my circumstance too, with me leaving Trinidad and coming to America, was a little bit different in the sense that that's why I didn't go to college right away because I left Trinidad and came here at 21. Um, so that's one. I think
You think that's why you push me so hard to do my work now? Because you kind of
I
see myself, you see yourself in that, see yourself and me in that predicament of
yeah,
it.
I definitely because for one, I know that um
Yo, we have a little visitor.
so this episode is just we just have a lot of interruptions. Okay, we're back. So so in the life of balancing and all of that, we had dad and brother came in and thought they can just do everything. But anyway, back to that topic of I forgot what we were talking about.
The school and
Yeah,
stuff.
with the
Yeah,
school. I do think that's why I push you. And here's the reason why. I knew that I
could do it.
could have done it all the time, but at some times I would be lazy, right? I would procrastinate and things of that nature.
Ooh, sound like
So
me a little bit.
so when I see you doing it, that is what I think that's where it comes from. I'm like, oh my gosh, come on, because I know you can do it, and I know you can get the straight A's. I know you can, I know I can see your potential. So yeah, that's why I push a lot. Because my mom used to be like she had few requirements. Basically, go to school and do your work, and don't let the principal call me.
Okay, well, that's
which
basic.
which I say to you a lot.
Right.
Don't I don't want no phone calls, that kind of thing. Don't embarrass me, that kind of thing. Um, so again, yes, I think that's why I push you. Um, I'm gonna say one that it's really hard to say this one, but I'm gonna say it because I want you to understand.
Okay.
I think one of them is also dating early. Um, so I didn't I wasn't allowed to date
At an early age, or like,
at an early age. Like that was a no for from my parents. Like a boy, what? You know? Um, but I again sometimes, you sneak and you talk and and I think that too sometimes I for you because to be honest, I think boys and books, like once I started to get interest in boys, like coming up, I guess in Trinidad, that would be like your senior year kind of thing or whatever, is where I saw the shift in my work a little bit, right? And I think if I had continued with not, you know, focusing on that, I again didn't do bad, but I could have done better, right? And so that's the reason why sometimes I'm like, okay. So I had a lot of friends in school,
Right.
right? A lot of friends, and I lived a rich, had a rich high school, I would say. Played sports and things of that nature. But when it came to like, okay, a boy really like you and you start talking to them, I think that's where it changed. So that's where I use the example for you, like you're not allowed to date, but I don't mind you having friends and have that friend barrier where you don't call it, you don't label it, so you don't feel obligated
To doing
to
things.
doing things.
Okay.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason. Because I think when you put a label, it becomes something else. We all know there's gonna be the little puppy love and the that type of thing. And boy, we get that, but I think yeah, education has to be in the forefront,
So
right?
I feel like, is that a question? Would you say not? Ugh. When you have you ever went behind your mother's back and talked to any type of boys in any type of kind of relationship nature?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Just you now the way you are with me. I'm like, mom didn't do that when she was younger.
No, I did. I did when we had my mom back and talked to a boy. And actually, I remember this one time that because we didn't have cell phones
Had
back
that
then.
BlackBerry thing.
Well, yeah, that came later, and by the time that time, I was like working in out of school and
Okay.
kind of still living home, but out of school. But I remember this one time that like we had house phones only, and so it was the house phones that was
In the kitchen. Is that what that
connected to
is? Oh my
the
gosh.
wall,
Hmm.
right? And then there was one upstairs, and I remember, I don't know, I gave this boy my phone number, and he was like, yeah, let's meet in the library, right? Because I used to go in the library, like I
Oh,
said, I love to read. No, Earl,
I thought
because
that was
guess,
cute.
yeah, well, it was cute at the time for me, but guess what? She was on the other line listening.
Oh.
Yeah. And then she was like, where are you going? I said, going to the library. She's like, oh, really? To meet so and so? No, you're not. So, so I totally got caught. And so, again, like I tell you that all the time. I was like, moms are detective.
Yeah.
So, where you think you're going to be getting away with something, we're going to find out. We'll find a way to find out.
That.
So,
But honestly, I think in this, just to sum up this episode, I think in this episode, I've learned that parents have feelings. One,
yes.
I didn't, not in a way that I didn't know, but I didn't know they'd feel stuff like that. And I feel like all your sacrifices that you made up to now were good. I feel like I don't know if I could take that feeling away. I just feel like telling you that you shouldn't feel guilty for not spending having that time with me when I was younger to pursue something that you have now is that's totally fine because sacrifices are made for better outcomes. That's how I look at it.
Ooh.
And you sacrificing that time with me or spending time with me to get your education, get your degree, and to have that stable job. Now look at you work from home. I see you every day. I tell you good night every night. I feel like just those years that you just had to push through came for a better outcome. And I feel like you're doing great as a mom. You're not doing anything wrong. Yes, there's times that I would be mad at you for saying no. That's not going to change. But I feel like everything you're doing right now is fine. I feel like you shouldn't feel guilty. And I feel like just overall, you're number one mom. Number one mom. I need to get you a cup with that. Number one mom.
Well,
I feel
guess
like
what?
you.
I think that's a wrap. We will end on that note. Number one, mom. But I do appreciate you saying that. I think this was another good installation
Definitely.
of learning each other and learning new things. Don't forget, like
Subscribe.
and share. Thank you.
Bye.